Hi, I'm Bookbird, and I just finished Isles of the Emberdark, and I want to discuss it. Just to start off, because I haven't done a whole lot of reviews on my channel yet, I personally think that any author, whether indie or large like Brandon Sanderson, can be discussed with critiques and criticisms and also the compliments to their writing and what they do well. So if you are a person who can't handle me talking critiques or any criticism about your favorite author, then I don't think you should watch this video. If you are a avid Brandon Sanderson fan, go ahead and not listen to me. You keep enjoying everything about Brandon Sanderson, but I personally believe you can critique something and still enjoy the art form. Because I am an artist, I do understand the difference between critique and just bashing an author to be rude, basically. So with that long explanation, let's get into my thoughts on Isles of the Emberdark by Brandon Sanderson. On my channel, I like to cheers before we get into everything. So cheers with your beverage. I was one who backed the Kickstarter. I think it was for a different leather bound of his, but I didn't get the leather bound of the Stormlight archive that was in this Kickstarter, but I got it for this secret project, which Isles of the Emberdark is Secret Project 5, and I do believe in order of secret projects, you shouldn't read it until after you've read The Sunlit Man, and also I believe you shouldn't read Sunlit Man or this before you've finished the Stormlight archive, and also possibly Era 1 and 2 of Mistborn. So, and the reason I state this is this project is very Cosmere heavy. It even prompted me to create this video where I talked about Cosmere fatigue and my thoughts while reading this. And I think if you haven't read through the books that I listed, you have many chapters that will be pointless to you because they are so Easter egg heavy with Cosmere stuff. Even as someone who has read all those but read them in years past, I had to dig through my memory to try and piece what I knew about the Cosmere. So that's one heads up. If you plan on picking this up, I would recommend waiting if you have not gotten very far in Brandon Sanderson's work. So this book follows two POVs. Dusk, which is the original idea. He did a previous novella about Dusk, and then with this book he expanded on that story, which I personally never read that novella to begin with, so Dusk was a all brand new character to me. So Dusk is basically, he's called a trapper, and he is consistently referred to as a primitive being on his island, almost similar to Native Americans. He never wanted people to industrialize his island, basically, and then it got to a point where he had to agree to let more of a civilization happen, but the island he lives on is very dangerous and only he knows the dangers, so he kind of gets a position within this new government of the civilization to inform on the island and the different aspects that he knows of as a trapper, getting through the jungles. And also these trappers have animal companions that are birds, and these birds have magical powers or investiture. Dusk has to go on a journey in to the Emberdark to try and find a reason to not get the parliament of his civilization to agree on a pact between him and the ones above. He doesn't want the technology that comes with that pact, and he has a friend that you get the backstory of that is basically the head president or whatever of this parliament that makes all the decisions. So she sends him off into the Emberdark to find a good reason to give back to the parliament, to tell them, no, we should hold off on this deal. We can do this instead. Because part of that deal is trading their AVR, which are the bird animal companions, with investiture, and that would mean that basically almost a sacred part of this island would be freely given to the ones above and any other people affiliated, and that's not something they want to do. So Dusk goes on this quest, and our second POV, which was my least favorite, was from Starling, who is a very young dragon. So Starling is currently serving out a sentence aboard a spaceship. She is manacled and can't actually use her dragon powers. Basically, she has to serve out a sentence of years in this manacled state where she can't actually use her dragon abilities. And so she's got a space crew, a team. She's not the head of it, she's not the captain, but she's a part of this crew that's flying through the Emberdark. So there were a few different reasons why I didn't enjoy Starling's perspective as much as I did Dusk's. One of those reasons was the Cosmere dumping that happened within her chapters. I felt like a lot of the conversations that happened, just in general, it was almost like her chapters were info dump of Cosmere specific things, and a way to also bring in Hoyd. And I think that's why so much of the beginning of the book was slow for me, because it was just this, we'd get a chapter or two of super action-packed Dusk fun chapters, and then we'd get Starling's Cosmere info dump. I'm flying with a crew in a spaceship, but nothing's really super happening, but here's a bunch of Cosmere info. I think that's what it felt like to me. So I actually didn't get fully into the book until it was probably 60-ish% when they finally, the two POVs joined and you got a full action story between the two. Otherwise, I felt like I much preferred Dusk's chapters over reading Starling's chapters, which was kind of a disappointment because I would have expected to love the dragon, who seems to be like super cool magical creature, over the human. And so it was surprising in that way and also disappointing at the same time. The other thing I'll note about Starling's perspective is she's supposed to be a young dragon in how dragons tell their age, which is very different than humans since they live so much longer. She's supposed to be slightly more immature of a character. I felt annoyed by her perspective because I felt like she just wasn't the character I feel like she could have been, being a young dragon. She's still going to have some life experience, so she's not going to be completely dumb about some things, but then other things, yeah, she's going to take a little bit to understand. And then she also knows all the lore about dragons. I don't know, I feel like she could have been a lot more than she was, in my opinion. I wanted to be excited to read from a dragon's perspective, but I just wasn't. So I did give this one a 3-star. I could have given it a 4 if Starling had just been more than what I got. I got Cosmere info dump and just general dragon lore and Emberdark lore, but I didn't get the dragon that I wanted. And this book is actually very heavy sci-fi, and that makes me unsure about Mistborn Era 3, because I'm not completely certain that I like the sci-fi elements of Cosmere. I kind of felt the same when I read Sunlit Man, which I would rate that. I gave that one a 3-star, but I would, in ranking terms, I would put Emberdark above Sunlit Man. So I am currently unsure how I feel about the sci-fi angle we're going to take in the future, but I'm glad I think it's a year before Era 3 even is supposed to be published. This book solidified the fact that I personally need a break from reading Sanderson. So I think my 2026 plan is to be Cosmere free. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this special edition because I am still going to keep it. I didn't hate it so much that I'm going to get rid of it, but I thought it was a unique touch. So we have the beginning pages as white. Once we get into the Emberdark, silver font on black, and I thought that was an awesome touch, and it was actually made it fun to read physically. Show you some of the art. So this is one of the silver on black artworks in it. So I thought that was kind of an awesome thing about this edition. So overall, I enjoyed the dusk perspective throughout this book, and I don't hate it, but I didn't love it as much as I wanted to. Thank you for watching my review of Isles of the Emberdark, and let me know if you plan on reading this, and please leave a like if this review helped you out, helped you decide if you needed to hold off on reading this, or if you're ready to jump in and see for yourself if you enjoy it. And as long as you hit that subscribe button, I can see everyone in the next video.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead,